Hey, Larkin Rose here. I decided to do this impromptu rant about pack mentality. I've mentioned pack mentality a million times before and the problems with it and how it's stupid and stuff. I just got through, partway through a thing James Corbett did on World War I and how it actually started and the conspiracies behind the scenes and all the fun warmongering games being done. While at the same time there was an argument going on under one of my posts on Facebook about Hitler and Nazis, and the usual one or two Nazi apologists show up and like, you totally don't understand, you have to do more research, Hitler was just fighting against blah 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 and trying to defend the yada yada yada. And so in the context of those two things going back and forth, I realized I should do a quick video about how pack mentality isn't just stupid, it is one of the most important tools of tyrants. Because divide and conquer only works if there are big categories to divide people into. Like if you can't be divided, if the ruling class had to divide you from other people one at a time, like one at a time, we're going to make you hate all these other people and then make you clamor for us to have power to protect you from them, it doesn't ever work. You have to be able to categorize people and group them and make people scared of entire groups or make them hate entire groups. And if you look at the warmongering games, it's always like that. Like James Corbett was talking about how the few warmonger psychos in England wanted, this is leading up to World War I, wanted everybody scared of the Germans, so they do their war propaganda, which both sides always do, of trying to paint the other side as these horrible, heartless animals. And there's usually a kernel of truth in that, because in any war, both sides are doing nasty, horrible things. That's kind of what war is. But both sides will then try to, pick out the worst of the other side and then exaggerate it and make some stuff up and pad the numbers and do whatever they have to make it seem like the other side is just so horrible we have to go fight against the Germans or the Russians or the Chinese or the Americans or the British if you're on the other side, or whoever the enemy is. But the enemy has to be a giant category, whether by nationality or race or religion or something, because you can't have a war between, like, to have a war, you need at least two giant groups of people shooting at each other. And the warmongers know damn well you can't do that by vilifying one person at a time, even if it was accurate, even if there really were nasty people. You have to be able to make people fear entire groups. And there's a second part that happens naturally to the pack mentality that happens by itself that allows this to work, which is that people, they do the pack mentality of us versus them, but it applies to both. The them is the horrible people we don't like and are dangerous and nasty and they're a threat to us, we better build a wall or build an army or invade them or blow stuff up or something. But then when it comes to the us side, people will make excuses. They'll believe the BS about this big category known as them over there and they're the enemy, but they'll believe equally stupid BS about the us category of we're all great and noble and righteous. And never for a moment would I pretend that all Americans are great and awesome and righteous. And if somebody attacks an American, not physically attacks, but insults and condemns an American for doing something evil, I'm not going to say, oh, I better defend him because he's one of us. He's an American. Like, if you're doing something evil, you're not one of us. You're not one of my people. My people, according to my definition, are the people who leave other people in peace. And I don't care what you look like or where you were born or any of that. I care whether you're an aggressor or not. And if you're not an aggressor, you're one of my people, as far as I'm concerned. And if you are an aggressor, you're not one of my people. I'm not going to defend you. I'm not going to make excuses for you. But both sides in war do this. They exaggerate the evil done by the other side and then apply it to everybody over there. All Germans are these evil, heartless, blah, blah, blah. All Japanese are these evil, heartless, blah, whoever it is this week. they're all horrible and evil, so we need a big army to fight against them. All Muslims are bloodthirsty, blah, blah. This stupid stuff, but that stupid stuff is needed to create a large enough fear to get people to cheer for violent conflict on a large scale, which is what tyrants feed off of. But while people are being scared of all them, they're making excuses for all of us, for the people they view to be on their side. And there have been plenty of atrocities committed by U.S. troops and by just normal Americans. Lots of Americans who were born and raised here are evil bastards and do evil crap. They commit murder and they commit rape and they commit armed robbery and all sorts of nasty stuff. And to at all downplay that just because they happen to look like you or be born within the same territorial jurisdiction as you is just as stupid for condemning somebody because, well, you live in the same jurisdiction of somebody else who did something bad. Both are pack mentality, whether it's pack mentality trying to fudge reality to make it look better because it's the group you're in, or trying to fudge it to make things look worse for the group you're not in. Either way, it's stupid, and either way, it is what the control freaks live off of. They rely on that. The last thing the tyrants want is for Americans, when they see another American doing something evil, whether a politician or soldier or cop or some random guy in the street, the last thing they want is to say, he's not one of us. He's an evil bastard. We condemn him too. We're not going to stand up for him just because he fits in some demographic category with us. If he's an evil bastard, he's an evil bastard. We'll condemn him. Because individual choices and individual actions is the only thing anybody should get blame or credit for. And you don't water it down because they happen to be your buddy. But notice how both this pack mentality has an extra effect on cops and on soldiers who will downplay the evil done by their own. And cops are trained. Cops are just the stupid attack dogs of the ruling class. That's all they are. What they do is unthinkingly go initiate violence on behalf of the politicians. And they're trained to view their gang, their club, as this brotherhood, the fraternal order of fascist bastards, where if your fellow fascist bastard does something evil, you better not call him on it. You can sort of quietly think maybe he shouldn't do that, but you're going to stand together because brotherhood and because blah, 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 some stupid pack mentality excuse, which ironically, but this shows how pack mentality feeds into the tyrants, ironically, it is all the police who look the other way when other police do evil shit that makes everybody hate the police. Everybody should hate the police because the police consist of a bunch of evil bastards and a bunch of people looking the other way at best, which makes them cowardly evil bastards. So you have evil bastards, and then thanks to pack mentality, you have a bunch of cowardly evil bastards that don't do anything about the evil bastards in their category, in their club, in their gang, because they're part of my pack. I have to stand with them. There's the unspoken, unwritten rule among cops that you never blah, 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 pack mentality bullshit. And what's so pathetic is that the cops who are trying to be good but turn a blind eye to that or don't speak out against that, they are making themselves enemies of everybody else by way of their own stupid pack mentality by choosing to associate with evil assholes instead of saying, wow, that's not us. The reason people hate cops in general is because they don't see cops saying, whoa, I just saw a guy with a badge doing something evil. That's not okay. He should be arrested or shot or thrown in prison or something. He's not one of us. But they are more interested in who's in their gang and who's in their collective and who's in their pack than they are with right and wrong. So they will fudge things to make out everybody else. Well, yeah, that unarmed guy that got shot in the street, he's not part of our gang. So I'm going to say things like, well, you didn't see the whole video and maybe you took it out of context and you don't know how scary this job is. And I'm going to make up all sorts of excuses for why somebody in my gang just outright committed murder. And then everybody looks at that and says, what is wrong with you people? Because those cowardly pack mentality idiots with badges are choosing to cling to the murderous psychos. They're choosing to side with evil assholes, which means you're choosing to be an evil asshole. Almost every cop in the country chooses to be an evil asshole, either by looking the other way or by keeping quiet or by actually helping in or committing this evil thuggery. And very rarely does one stand up and say, yeah, this isn't really okay. I have to speak out against that. Yeah, I know he's a fellow cop, but he's being an evil bastard. We have to point out that he's an evil bastard. What happens when that happens? The rest of the gang stomps on the guy who pointed it out, who betrayed the gang by choosing morality instead of the pack. And the same thing happens in war. Yeah, our side sometimes commits these horrible atrocities, but we're going to downplay that and not talk about that. And if somebody leaks that, if somebody leaks, for example, a video of a bunch of bloodthirsty lunatic American soldiers murdering journalists in the street in Iraq, and here's the video of it, oh, that guy was a traitor for showing that. Why? Well, because the murderers were Americans. You can't be making America look bad. But that's the problem. People think in terms of whether America looks bad or not. That doesn't make America look bad. It makes some individuals who did some evil shit look bad. You know what does make America look bad is when America says, we'd rather cover that up than condemn it. Because that is the pack mentality, and that is the pack mentality that lets divide and conquer work. The politicians' divide and conquer tactics wouldn't work if normal people didn't think in terms of pack mentality. Because if I heard, like, over there some Russian or German or Chinaman, is that totally politically incorrect? Chinese person does something evil, some evil thing, I don't think, well, that's how the Germans are, the Russians are, the Chinese are. I think, wow, that person did an evil thing. Or if some Muslim, oh, the story just came out that these Muslims did something horrible and violent. Okay, those people are horrible and violent. And if it's horrible and violent enough and somebody kills them, good riddance. The world is a better place without, gang raping murderous bastards. Good, kill them, freaking kill them. Don't blame 1.6 billion people who have some vague thing in common with them, like, well, they're all like that. But what's so pathetic is that people don't get that their own pack mentality is enslaving them. They are victims of their own pack mentality being used against them because they're too stupid to distinguish between individuals actually making choices and doing evil things and categories of people. And you see it in war, and you see it with law enforcers, and you see it with all sorts of gangs. And jackasses like Donald Trump totally feed the pack mentality. Oh, the people coming up from Mexico, they aren't the best, they're all rapists and this and that and the other thing. You're going to categorize how many millions of people have, over the years, come up from Mexico? I don't even know what the number is. You're going to pretend they're all horrible rapists? No, they're not. And if some of them are, talk about some of them. But the result of the pack mentality is, I'm scared of that entire group. Or I hate that entire group. Let's put up a big wall to keep them all out. Or I hate this entire group. Let's throw them all in concentration camps like the U.S. did to a bunch of Japanese Americans in World War II. Well, you share genetics with with another group on the other side of the world that we decided is our enemy. And of course, on the other side of the world, they're mostly thinking in terms of packs and groups too. So that they're thinking, we're the good guys and you're the enemies. But people thinking in terms of packs is why the game works. And without that, tyrants would have almost nothing. If tyrants if individuals only felt justified in cheering for violence against actually nasty people, not categories, not whole religions, not whole races, but individuals who chose to do nasty things, there is no way for tyrants to get power out of that. And you look at they do it all over the place. Like the war on drugs, there are nasty, horrible, violent drug dealers. There's also lots and lots of perfectly nice drug dealers who are selling substances to willing customers. That's not the end of the world. It's not as bad as cops who constantly initiate violence against people. And this is coming from somebody who's never even done drugs. Don't think most of them are a good idea. Things like pot and shrooms, whoopee-doo, like, don't really care. They're not nearly as bad as alcohol. But either way, when you take a category and go, oh, drug dealer, like the whole category and the stereotype of drug dealers, like, I've met a number of drug dealers, including in prison and just out in the real world. Most of them have been pretty nice and completely nonviolent. I've never met a cop who's nonviolent. Now, before people bring up, well, that's you thinking in terms of packs. No, it isn't. Because law enforcers, every single individual law enforcer has chosen to initiate violence on behalf of the state against lots of people he doesn't know. Every single one. It's the difference between saying all Muslims are bad, which is stupid, and all carjackers are bad, which is true, because the term carjacker describes only those people who have individually chosen to initiate violence against innocent people. And the term law enforcer refers only to those people who have individually chosen to initiate violence against other people in the name of law. I'm talking about pack mentality, where you take a category which includes tons of people who haven't done anything wrong. They didn't threaten anybody, they didn't hurt anybody, and decide we're scared of them or we have to do something about them. The left does it with gun owners. Oh, gun owners are scary, you have to forcibly disarm them all. Never mind that 99 point however many percent of them never threaten or harm anybody. And never mind that in the other direction, never mind that all these horrible, like, drug dealers or whatever category the political right wants to demonize, Mexicans and immigrants and blah, 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 the vast majority of them are just trying to live their own life, like the vast majority of everyone on the planet. But they'll pick and choose one or two stories here and there and go, oh, here's a person with a gun who did something horrible. This is why we have to disarm this entire category. Oh, this person came across the border and did something horrible. This is why we need a big wall to keep out this entire category. It only works. The fear-mongering only works. The divide and conquer only works if people think in terms of packs. And what's ultimately so sad about that is that it's people's own pack mentality that is making them cheer for their own subjugation and oppression. It would be bad enough if they were tricked into cheering for the oppression just of the other groups, but they cheer for things that end up violating their own freedom. Like the people, we need tougher border security and a wall and blah, 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 blah. Let's say you want to go on vacation to Mexico. Oops. Your stupid pack mentality just made you cheer for drastic restrictions on your own freedom. Good job. Or if you're a political leftist, we have to outlaw all guns, only cops should have guns. Oh, now we're in a police state. Gee, what happened? Oh, I can't have a gun. Darn it. Good job, you imbecile. You just cheered for your own enslavement and restrictions of your own freedom because your brain-dead pack mentality made you fall for the divide and conquer that politicians always do. They do it with legislation, they do it with law enforcement, they do it in war, they do it in nationalities, they do it in every way, but it only works if you think in terms of packs and categories and generalities instead of individuals. If you understand that individuals are responsible for what they do, and that force is only justified against the individuals who are choosing to attack or threaten other people, then there is no case in which the fear-mongering and divide and conquer tactics of politicians will work on you. The moment you start looking at people as categories as, well, we better control that category, and we better limit that category, and we better put a wall in front of that category, and we better put restrictions on this category, then you're just being an idiot dupe pawn of the worst people in the world because of your own stupid pack mentality.